Okay, congratulations if you've made it to this stage. This is session 3 of JavaScript for software development. Okay, before now we talked about function and we talked about loop. In this section, we want to move into the data structures and we want to see how we can actually deal with data. So we're going to look at data structure. So let's quickly look at data structures as the case may be. Okay, so we have some data structures that comes in form of array. We have what is called the array. We could have what is called the set as well. So these are data. So array we could have comes in different forms. It comes in lists as well. So in some other programming kind of language, you see what is called a list. So we have a set. Then we have what is called an object. We call this object, right? Which is where we're going to be having a key pair value. In some programming languages, they call it dictionary, right? Very similar to that. So you're going to have a key and a pair value. So these are some of the things we're going to be looking at in this section. So we're going to start up with array. So what's actually an array? So very simple. An array is just a simple container that holds several variables. Like for example, if I say let's name, right? Let name equal to, my name is equal to something, James. I can only store just one name in here. I can't store more than one name here, right? So this is actually what makes it different from others, from array. So this variable can just store only one, value. But if I want to store multiple value, how do I do that? I need an array. Is that okay? So an array actually gives us some method to be able to manipulate the data as well. It makes the accessing of data much more easier. So let's go straight to array. How do we create an array? So we can say let's assume we want to create an array of names. So the variable of the array is going to be names, right? We'll say names equal to, and once you put this square brackets, you've already created an array. In JavaScript, it is very simple to create an array. This is how you create an array. So an array has been created. And you can then put in, the array elements into the array. So this is an empty array. So if I want to put in some names, I can put in James. So I'm going to be putting it in a, in a quote because it's a string. Then maybe I have Sylvester. Then I have Kelly. I have Robin, and so on and so forth. So this is an array. So I just created an array of of names. So how do I console.log at this array? You can just really simply just console.log that. Now this is what you can do in some other programming language. You're going to get objects. You're not going to see the array. So I just console.log at the array. Some other programming language like C# Java, you're just going to see objects. You're not going to see all the members of the arrays as the case may be. So if we look at this, we try to run this quickly. We're just going to see this array has been created, and here is the array. We just console.log it out. And some of the terminologies you need to know. What you have in this array are the array elements. These are elements of the array. So these are elements of the array. So there are 4 elements in this array. And the question is, how do we access each array? So that is accessing array. How do we access an array? Now, very simple. To access an array, you start with an index of 0. So this array, which has, this is the position, the first position, second position, then this third position and fourth. If you want to use the index, this is going to have an index of 0, then this will be 1, this will be 2, this will be 3. So always note that the first starts from what? 0. So this is going to be index of 0. So you guess right. If I say what is the index of Bella, you can tell that the index of Bella is going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is going to be 4. Yes, it's true that we have 5 elements in the array, but the first element always begins with an index of 0. So as a result of that, Bella becomes index of 4. So talk is cheap. So let's see that. Let's assume we want to access Bella. How do we access Bella? So we can do that and say console.log. We want to access just Bella because we want to access a certain array. We don't want to access the whole array. So let's just print out just one. We want to access Bella. So Bella is having an index of what? 4. So this is how we access it. Names, that's the name of the array that we want to print out. Then you're going to put the square bracket in front of it and you write the index you want. So if I put an index of 0, it means I'm printing out James, right? So if I save that now, that means I'm printing out the first element called James. If I put in an index of 1, of course, you can tell what I'm printing out, that I'm printing out Sylvester. So if I'm putting an index of 4 here, which I'm going to just paste in here, so you can also tell this is index of 4. You can tell that I'm printing out the last one, which is Sylvester. So you do this, and this is Sylvester as the case will be. But let's see if I'm printing out an index that doesn't exist, index of 5. As you can see, there's no index of 5, but I just want to print that out and see. If we do that, we're going to be getting undefined, which means that it doesn't exist. So as you can see, it's actually throwing up an error. Oh, sorry, it's throwing up error because of this. So it's just going to say undefined and it will run, but it's just going to tell us that that is undefined. As you can see, we're seeing undefined. And I forgot to tell you the other time that one of the data type we also have is called undefined. If you remember the data type, we have just a recall. We have integer. We have, in JavaScript, we have numbers. So the numbers is divided to float, right? Then we also have a string. We have the character. Then we have the Boolean. And we have the undefined. Undefined is also a data type. Undefined. Then we also have none, right? Null. So these are data, or let's spell this way, undefined. So these are data type. Is that okay? These are data type. So we're not dealing with data type here, we're dealing with data structure. So here we go. This is how we access each member of the array, right? We can access the index of the array. So let's quickly see, how do we look through all the members of the array? We want to print everything out, all the members of the array, not like the one we did before now. We want to be able to get each of the elements of the array. So this is where that loop that I taught you will, play. How do we look through each of them to print out James, Sylvester, Kenny, and so on? So how do we do that? So we're going to be using that for loop that we talked about before now. So let's apply that for. Then we're going to have this. So the condition is going to start here. We're going to say for. So we're going to start off, we say let I, which stands for index, equal to 0. Because we actually want, this actually has an index of 0. So what if you can't start from 0, right? And we also want the I to be less than or equal to the number of elements you have here. The number of elements you have here is 5. So you can put that 5. And we also want it to increment. So we say I plus plus. So that is it. So we have I plus plus. So we can say console.log. Now, how does this really affect this array I want to bring in here? So please, I want you to take notes of this. To print out each member of the array, we're going to say names, right? Then we'll put the index in front of it. That's what we do. So let me just give it space so that it can be readable. So I'm doing this on purpose so that we can read it. So we'll just put the index. So if you put index of 0, it means that it's going to print out the first member of the array, right? So this is what we mean. Why am I using 5? I'm using 5 because we have 5 elements here. That's the limit, right? So we need to increase by 1. So that means this loop is just going to loop 1 to what? It's just going to loop 1 to 5. Let me show you this quickly. So let me say loop I, console.log. Console.log is equal to I. So let's run that and check that. So as you can see, we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I want to say 0 is less than, I don't want to say equal to 5 because I don't want it to get to 5 because we only have index of 4. Is that okay? So if we do that, we're going to have 0, 1, 2, 3 to 4. Can you see that now? So that's what it's actually doing. So let's see the logic in here. Look at this I, right? You know the I, the first time it counts 0, the second time it counts 1, the third time 2, 3, and 4, and so on and so forth. What if we keep this I? Look at this I. We take it in this I. I'm just going to take the I off. Then we're going to say names. We want to access each member of the array. So, you know, on the nonce, I'm supposed to put 0 here. Then later I put 1, I put 2. So I don't need to do that. I'll just put I because that I is reading 0, 1, 2, 3. So this is what will happen. When the I reads 0, it's going to print out James because it's going to see this as name, then index of 0. When the I reads 2, it's going to print out the second one, Sylvester, because it's going to see, sorry, when it reads 1, it's going to print out the second name, Sylvester, because it's going to indicate here that this I is what? 2. When it is 3, it's going to indicate that this is 3, and this will be what? Printed out. Robin will be printed out, and so on and so forth. So that I is a variable that will be printed out. So let's do that now. So if we put in the value of the I, and we'll run this now, I don't think I'll save that. Okay, I'll save it, and we'll run this. You're just going to see James, Sylvester, Kelly, Bailey, and Robin and Bella. Can you see that? So it printed out all the names. So this is how you look through an array. It's a very simple way of, the conventional way of looking through array. Now, there are a lot of array method of looking through array, which we're going to be looking at later. We're going to be looking at what is called the callback function. Is that okay? And that will actually lead us to that topic. But for now, this is how you can look through. And the question is, what if I add another member of the array here? For example, I had another element here, and this is Leo. And I add another one, and this is Mary. So here we go. Can you see this? So 2 has been added, but let's see if it can look through that. So you can see it's not going to be able to look through that. It's going to stop at the other one, which is this, right? It's going to stop at Bella, right? That's because that was where we stopped. So if you want it to actually go beyond that, we're going to say, okay, this is going to be 7. So we'll make this to be 7, and boom, we are good to go. So you can then look through it. Is that okay? So what if we don't know the number of elements we have in this array? Now, this is a database. People are signing up into this database. We can't tell the number of people that we have in there. So we can't be writing a loop for I equal to 20, for 50. We don't know if it is 50 users and 150 users. But the good news is that there is a simple method of an array that you can actually use to know the length of an array. So it's called a property, not a method anyway. So we're going to be looking at method, built-in method of array, and built-in properties of array. So let's look at one of the properties of array. Properties of array. Now, what are actually properties? Properties is just a description of how a certain data structure looks like. So there is a built-in array built by JavaScript to be able to know the length of an array. So for you to be able to know the length of an array, you just do names.length, and that's all. That's all. You just to tell you the name of the array number of elements you have in that array. So we can just console.log it out so we could see the result, because if we don't do that, we're not going to see any results, right? So let's quickly do that now. So now that we've done that, console.log length names.length, we save it. And let's run this quickly. So if you check out this, you're going to see 7. There are 7 elements, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You can see that. So if peradventure you reduce some elements, let's assume we are taking off this element, right? And we save it now. It's going to tell us the elements that we have. We have 5. We can also decide to add elements as the case may be. It's just going to know the length of the element, right? So knowing this length of the element actually makes sense, right? So this names.length, we're just going to replace this. So we'll come back here and uncomment this one, right? We'll uncomment this. We come back to this place where we say 7. Can you see the 7? We just put that here. We say names.length because that is what is going to tell us the total length of what we have in there. So in case you don't know, that is how you get the properties of an array. So with that, it will tell us the total length we have. And if we try checking it now, you see we're able to look through that. So even if I decide to increase the number of elements I have in the array, say this is Joy, it's also going to just do the same thing and just be able to get the length, that the length is 6, and look through all the members of the array. That is how it works. So this is the for loop in use now. We're using it to look through each member of the array. And this does not stop here. There are various ways that we can actually look through an array. Is that okay? So there are functions that are built in. They are like a for loop functions that are built in. So with callbacks. So that's what we're going to be looking at now. So I'm just going to take this off. As I said before, now don't move at the same pace with me. Make sure you do this and it works before you take it off. Then you can move on. Or if you feel you will forget this, you can just take it and create another file here. So for example, you can say, okay, I want to save this somewhere here. You can just create a file and you call it maybe index2, right? And .js, and just save that here, just like that, right? You can save that and so on and so forth. So I just prefer to just do it on one stuff here because we're trying to test the waters. There will be a time that all our code will be saved. Is that okay? So here we go. We just create this, and this is what is printing out. So now let's use the array method that is actually built in for it. So there are some methods. Now, what are methods? Thank God I've taught you function. Function and method are the same. As I said before now, I said the methods are found in a class, while the functions are the one outside the class. Now, this name, this data structure here is a class. So it has a method, it has different methods, it has different functions. Let me use that common language. It has different methods. So for example, you can check, you can reverse this member of the array. Is that okay? You can turn it the other way around, you can sort it. There are so many of them, you can push so many things into it, you can pop out some settings, you can shift some certain stuff. We're still going to be looking at all those methods. But one of the stuff that method we're going to be looking at is the method to be able to look through each member of the array. It's very simple to use, and this is how it works. It is called the for each loop. Now, to use the for each loop, you're going to pick the name of the arrays. You say names dot, right? And you then use the keyword for each. As you can see, that is it here, for each. Then you put it like this. It's a method. Now, in case you don't know, when you're calling a method, you put these brackets. And I want you to see something here. I want you to be observant here. So if I say for, can you see this? It's bringing out a box. Now, anytime you use a dot and you see a box being popped out, just know it's a method. Is that okay? That is a method that is built inside this class of array. Is that okay? So it means that automatically you're going to end with a parenthesis. Is that okay? You must put this. That's what it means. But if it's a property, like the way we had for length, if I do names dot and I just say length, as you can see, if I do length, you see it's not showing this cube stuff. It's showing a cuboid, right? That shows that this is a property, not a method. So if it shows the cube, then it shows that it's a method. So let's move on. As you can see, if I do dot, you can see dot push, dot so many things, which we're going to be looking at later. But the one we actually want is the for each loop. So let's take that and we'll put our parentheses. Now, this is where we have what is called the callback function. So I'm going to take all this off just to make sure that our code is very clean. Okay, so this is what we call a callback function. Now, what do we actually call a callback function? A callback function is a function inside a method, right? That does not have a name. Let's use that simple logic now. It helps you to do something, but there is no name attached to it. So in here, now I can create a callback function. So I can create an arrow function like this. Excuse me. So I can create an arrow function like this. Can you see this? So I'm creating it inside this. So this is a callback function. Can you see this? It's called a callback function. That's what I want to do. So you can also do the same thing that you've been doing. You can create the normal function and say function, right? Just the way you've been doing it, and take away this arrow. And it's still a callback function. It does not have a name. Is that okay? So you can do it like this if you wish to. But I prefer the first one. So it's personal preference. You can use any one you like. It works exactly the same way. So this is the callback. So this is where any method that I want to use will be placed. The parameters I want to use will be placed. Now the parameter that will be here is what the variables of each of these elements. So the variables of each of these elements, what will I like to call it? I'll just like to call them record, or I will just like to call them elements. LM, which stands for elements. I would just like to call them elements. So you can put in any name there. So inside this bracket, that's where I write my code. What do I want to do? Just want to console.log them out. That's what I want to do. So I just want to console.log them out. So what do I want to log out? LM. Don't forget, I just give it a new name, and it's called LM now. So what it's going to do is just going to look through that and print out each of the elements here. So if I try to run this now, you'll see it's going to do exactly the same thing as what I did before. Can you see that? It's printing it out exactly the way the other works. Is that okay? So this is the good news about this, is that we have a built-in function. So it's called the for each loop. As I said before, now, if you don't like this kind of method, arrow function, yes, you can take it to the normal function you like. So you can just do this, and you come in here and you say function, right? Boom, you're good to go. You save this, and you try to run this now, and boom, you are good to go. It's going to work exactly the same way. None is actually better than each other. It's just personal preference. So just the way we have before each loop, we also have the map method, right? We can also map through it, just the way we use the names dot map method. We can also use the map method as well. Names dot, we have map. Can you see that now? So we can do that, and boom, we are good to go. So what do we want to put in there? Of course, our callback function. Now, I want to let you know that you're creating a callback function. At this point where you place, let me give some space. At this point where you place this, because if I do the same thing I did now, I'll get the same result. But I just want to show you that you can do it in several ways. Now, if the element that I'm creating, the parameter I'm going to place here is just one parameter, just as I placed it here, I say element, just one parameter. So there's no need for this bracket. I can take off this bracket and say LM without the bracket, right? And if what I'm also going to be printing out, for example, you know, if I hit this now, go to another line, it's not going to be on two lines. It's just going to be on one line, just like this, right? I can also neglect these curly braces. That means I can just take off these curly braces and say, no, I don't want you, since I'm printing on one line, and say console dot what? Log. So these are several ways of doing the same thing. Choose the one that works for you. I'm not saying that one is the best. Is that okay? So you can write this. So this is much more shorter, right? It's a shorthand form of what we did here. So you just say console.log, since what you are doing. But if you have to write in some other code in here, then you're going to need the curly braces. But most time you don't need all that. So let's check out that. So I'm just going to be taking this off so it doesn't look as if this was the one running. So we're going to take this again and take this up and run this. So we can see it does exactly the same thing. It's able to loop through it. Now there are a series of loops that you can actually use in method. There is the one called sum. You can actually filter. Is that okay? So let me take you to the filter method. Now the filter goes like this: names dot names dot. You can have what is called the filter method. So what do we actually want to filter out? So I'm going to tell you how it works with just the name. So I'm going to say LM, right? I want to filter element. Is that okay? Equal to, let's say Bella. So that's what I want to actually filter out here. So you can use this. So I'm just going to put this in a curly braces, right? Because this is like a condition as well. So I'm going to put in the curly brace so it can be much more readable.